The first wave of Arcturian attacks came without warning, a symphony of destruction that lit up the darkness of space with explosive fury. Orbital colonies that had taken decades to construct vanished in brilliant eruptions of plasma and fragmented metal. Entire settlement zones along the outer human territories became graveyards of floating debris and shattered dreams. Captain Marcus Chen watched from the bridge of the emergency response vessel Horizon as the initial assault unfolded. His hands gripped the command console, knuckles white, but his eyes betrayed no panic, only a cold, calculated determination that had been generations in the making. The Arcturian strategy was brutal in its simplicity. They believed in overwhelming force, in breaking the spirit of their opponents through total annihilation. Massive battleships, each the size of small moons, unleashed weapon systems that could reduce entire planetary infrastructures to atomic dust in moments. Communication networks went dark. Defensive systems crumbled. To any outside observer, it would have seemed like the complete and total destruction of human resistance. But beneath the chaos, something extraordinary was happening. Each Arcturian strike was precisely anticipated, not through simple military intelligence, but through a complex network of quantum-linked predictive systems that had been quietly developed over decades. What appeared to be complete destruction was, in fact, a carefully orchestrated response. Hidden quantum beacons embedded within the seemingly destroyed colonies flickered to life. These were not mere communication devices, but advanced adaptive systems that could reconstruct entire technological infrastructures from the most minimal data points. As Arcturian ships moved away from their targets, believing total victory was achieved, the first phase of humanity's true defense began. In a control center buried deep beneath the Martian surface, a team of specialists worked with inhuman precision. Their movements were synchronized, their understanding of the unfolding conflict so complete that they appeared to be operating as a single collective intelligence. Sarah Nakamura, the lead coordination specialist, spoke softly into her quantum communication link. Protocol Horizon is active. Commence secondary activation sequence. Across human-controlled space, seemingly destroyed infrastructure began to shift. Automated reconstruction systems emerged from hidden compartments. Quantum-encrypted communication networks that had been invisible now started to pulse with activity. What the Arcturians believed was total destruction was becoming the foundation of a more resilient human presence. The orbital colonies that had been reduced to debris began to reassemble, not through conventional reconstruction, but through advanced nanotechnological systems that could rebuild complex structures from minimal remaining components. Ships that appeared to be destroyed started to reform, their adaptive hull materials reconstructing critical systems with a speed that defied conventional understanding. Most critically, the human populations that the Arcturians believed they had eliminated were far from defeated. Hidden evacuation protocols had been activated moments before the first strikes. Entire communities had been relocated to concealed locations, underground complexes, deep space habitats, and quantum-shielded colonies that existed just beyond the perception of conventional scanning technologies. Captain Chen's voice cut through the controlled chaos of the Horizon's bridge. Status of population relocation. A holographic display flickered to life, showing a complex network of movement. Green indicators represented successfully relocated population centers. Each dot represented thousands of human lives, now safe and preparing for the next phase of their resistance. The Arcturian broadcast channels were filled with declarations of total victory. They displayed images of destroyed human territories, celebrating what they believed was a definitive conquest. What they didn't realize was that every piece of destruction was being carefully analyzed, every weapon signature logged, every tactical approach studied and prepared for. Humanity had always been more than just a collection of individuals. It was a species with an extraordinary capacity for adaptation, for turning moments of apparent defeat into opportunities for unprecedented resilience. As the last Arcturian battleships moved away from the seemingly devastated human territories, they could not see the silent reconstruction happening just beyond their sensors. They could not perceive the network of quantum-linked systems coming to life, the populations being relocated, the true defense taking shape. The assault was not the end of human resistance. It was merely the beginning. The art of infiltration had been perfected by humanity long before the Arcturian assault. Deep within the vast bureaucratic and military structures of the Arcturian hegemony, human operatives moved like silent ghosts, their presence undetectable yet profoundly impactful. Wei Zhang stood motionless in the central communication hub of the Arcturian primary administrative complex. To any observer, he appeared to be a low-level maintenance technician, his movements precise but unremarkable. Microscopic neural interfaces embedded beneath his skin allowed him to interface with the complex computer systems around him, breaking through security protocols with a level of sophistication that would have been unimaginable just decades earlier. Each keystroke was a weapon, each connection a potential destruction of the Arcturian infrastructure. The operatives like Y were not traditional spies. They were the product of decades of genetic engineering, neural enhancement, and psychological conditioning. Humans had transformed themselves into the perfect infiltrators, individuals who could blend seamlessly into alien societies while maintaining an extraordinary capacity for strategic thinking and technological manipulation. In the communication hub, Y began the delicate process of systematic dismantling. He wasn't simply gathering information. He was carefully unraveling the Arcturian communication networks thread by thread. Quantum encryption algorithms he had developed would allow him to create invisible pathways, backdoors that would remain undetected until the precise moment they were needed. Across multiple star systems, similar operatives were in motion. Each had been prepared for this moment their entire lives. Some were deep-cover diplomats who had spent years building trust within Arcturian governmental structures. Others were researchers who had embedded themselves in scientific institutions, slowly introducing subtle vulnerabilities into critical infrastructure systems. Dr. Olivia Rice worked in a high-security research facility on an Arcturian colony world. Her primary role appeared to be a xenobiological researcher studying interspecies adaptive technologies. In reality, she was systematically introducing microscopic vulnerabilities into the Arcturian defensive network, weaknesses so subtle that they would only become apparent during a full-scale conflict. The psychological preparation of these operatives was as crucial as their technological enhancements. They had been trained to think beyond traditional espionage. Each operative understood that their mission was not just about gathering information, but about fundamentally reshaping the potential for conflict. In the depths of an Arcturian military communication center, a series of seemingly random system glitches began to appear. Maintenance logs would show nothing unusual. Communication pathways would momentarily destabilize, then immediately restore themselves. To any casual observer, these would appear to be minor technical anomalies. But each glitch was a carefully placed digital fingerprint, a potential entry point for a more comprehensive system compromise. Wei's hands moved almost imperceptibly across the control interface to the security systems around him. He was just another maintenance worker performing routine diagnostics. But each movement was a precise calculation, each interaction a potential pathway for future infiltration. The true genius of the human infiltration strategy was its patience. These operatives weren't looking for immediate, dramatic results. They were laying the groundwork for a comprehensive dismantling of the Arcturian infrastructure, a death by 1,000 digital cuts. Quantum communication networks that the Arcturians believed were secure began to develop microscopic vulnerabilities. Early warning systems started to lose their precision. Military communication channels developed unexplainable blind spots. Most critically, the Arcturians would never see it coming. The operatives understood something fundamental about conflict that the Arcturian hegemony had forgotten. True victory was not about overwhelming force, but about understanding and systematically dismantling your opponent's ability to respond. As night fell on the Arcturian administrative complex, Wei Zhang completed his shift and walked out like any other worker. To the security systems, to the cameras, to every possible method of observation, he was utterly unremarkable. And that was exactly how he was designed to be. The whispers of humanity's revenge were just beginning to echo through the galaxy, and no one, absolutely no one, was listening closely enough to hear them. The first appearance of the human vengeance fleet was nothing short of a scientific miracle that defied every known principle of space warfare. Emerging from carefully constructed quantum tunnels, the fleet materialized with a precision that seemed to challenge the very laws of physics. Each vessel was a masterpiece of engineering that would have been indistinguishable from magic to observers from just a few decades earlier. Admiral Elena Rodriguez stood on the bridge of the fleet's flagship, her eyes scanning the holographic displays that surrounded her. The ship's neural interface responded to her slightest thought, systems adapting and reconfiguring in milliseconds. Around her, the bridge crew moved with a synchronicity that suggested they were more than just individual humans. They were a single, coherent operational system. The ships themselves were unlike anything in known galactic warfare. Constructed from adaptive metamaterials that could change their physical properties in real time, they existed in a state of constant transformation. Hull configurations shifted to optimize energy distribution. Weapon systems emerged and reconfigured with liquid-like smoothness, and defensive capabilities adapted to incoming threats before those threats could even be fully perceived. Most remarkable was the quantum displacement drive. Traditional faster-than-light travel involved massive energy expenditures and predictable movement patterns. The human fleet moved differently. They didn't simply travel through space. They existed in multiple potential locations simultaneously, collapsing their quantum state only at the moment of engagement. Captain Marcus Chen's voice cut through the bridge's ambient noise. Quantum targeting systems online. Probability matrices are stabilizing. What the Arcturians had considered an easy conquest was about to become their worst nightmare. The first engagement demonstrated the true extent of human technological development. Arcturian battle groups that had been designed to obliterate planetary defenses found themselves completely outmatched. Weapon systems that should have been devastating were absorbed, redirected, or simply nullified by the human fleet's adaptive shielding. Energy weapons that would have vaporized conventional ships simply dissipated against hulls that could redistribute energy at the molecular level. Missiles found their tracking systems confused by quantum-level deception fields that created millions of false targeting signatures. Each human vessel was essentially a living, thinking entity, its artificial intelligence systems working in perfect harmony with its human crew. But the technology was only part of the story. The human crews had been enhanced in ways that went far beyond traditional augmentation. Neural interfaces allowed for thought-based ship control. Genetic modifications provided enhanced reaction times and cognitive processing that made human-machine integration seamless. What appeared to be a small crew of 20 could operate a vessel that would traditionally require hundreds of personnel. Dr. Sarah Nakamura, the chief research officer, monitored the first engagement with clinical precision. Adaptive response protocol is functioning at 99.7% efficiency, she reported, her voice calm despite the unprecedented nature of the battle unfolding before them. Each ship in the Vengeance fleet was more than a weapon. It was a statement, a declaration that humanity was no longer a species to be overlooked or conquered. Every design choice, every technological innovation spoke to a deeper preparation, a civilization that had been quietly studying, learning, and preparing for this moment. The Arcturian communication channels erupted in confusion. Their battle networks, which had seemed invincible moments ago, began to collapse. Ships that had been the pride of the hegemony's military found themselves completely neutralized, their most advanced systems rendered useless by technologies they couldn't even comprehend. Most critically, the human fleet wasn't just defending. They were systematically dismantling the Arcturian military infrastructure with a level of precision that bordered on the surgical. Each engagement was a carefully calculated move, designed not just to destroy, but to send a message. Humanity had arrived on the galactic stage, and they were nothing like anyone had expected. As the first wave of engagements concluded, the quantum displacement drives of the human fleet began to shimmer. They didn't retreat. They didn't celebrate. They simply prepared for the next phase of their strategic response. The galaxy watched in stunned silence. The news of humanity's counteroffensive spread through galactic communication networks like a quantum pulse, leaving every known civilization in a state of shocked disbelief. The Galactic Council chambers on Nexus Prime erupted in chaos. Representatives from dozens of spacefaring civilizations watched holographic replays of human military engagements, their collective understanding of interstellar power dynamics crumbling with each passing moment. Ambassador Zora Cole of the Lyrian Confederacy stood at the central podium, her multifaceted eyes reflecting a mixture of terror and reluctant admiration. "Ladies, gentlemen, and non-corporeal entities," she began, her universal translator struggling to capture the nuance of her emotional state. "What we are witnessing is unprecedented in recorded galactic history." The holographic displays showed multiple perspectives of the human vengeance fleet's operations. Each replay revealed layers of strategic complexity that defied conventional military understanding. It wasn't just the technological superiority that stunned the assembled representatives. It was the systematic, almost surgical precision of human military action. The Croxian diplomatic delegation, known for their aggressive posturing, found themselves unusually silent. Their battle-hardened representatives watched as entire Arcturian battle groups were dismantled without what seemed like significant human casualties. The human fleet moved with a fluidity that suggested each ship was less a mechanical construct and more a living, thinking organism. Dr. Elena Rodriguez's strategic briefings, carefully leaked through diplomatic channels, began to circulate. They were masterpieces of military and diplomatic communication, detailed analysis that revealed the humans were doing far more than simply fighting a war. They were fundamentally challenging the existing galactic power structures. "Our objective," one section of the briefing read, "is not mere revenge, but the systematic dismantling of oppressive infrastructures that have prevented genuine interstellar cooperation." The implications were profound. Humanity wasn't just fighting the Arcturian hegemony, they were presenting an entirely new model of interstellar engagement. On the communication network hub of the Quantum Relay Station, data analysts worked frantically to understand the human technological breakthrough. How could a species that had been considered barely spaceworthy just decades ago now demonstrate such extraordinary capabilities? What none of the external observers realized was the depth of human preparation. The technological leap wasn't sudden. It was the result of generations of careful, patient development. Every seemingly random scientific breakthrough, every subtle advancement in quantum mechanics, adaptive technologies, and neural networking had been part of a comprehensive multi-generational strategy. The mercantile guilds, who had long treated humans as little more than potential economic resources, began to reassess their entire approach. Trading networks that had been stable for centuries suddenly found themselves needing to recalculate every existing economic model. Most critically, the human fleet wasn't just destroying Arcturian infrastructure. They were systematically liberating occupied territories, re-establishing communication networks, and providing advanced medical and reconstruction support to populations that had been under Arcturian control for generations. This was not a traditional military campaign. This was a comprehensive restructuring of galactic power dynamics. Ambassador Chen Wei, speaking before the Galactic Council, delivered a message that would be remembered for generations. Humanity does not seek to replace the existing order. We seek to create a new paradigm of mutual understanding and cooperative development. The words were simple, but their implications were revolutionary. Diplomatic channels that had been silent for decades began to activate. Species that had been marginalized by the Arcturian hegemony found themselves receiving communications from human diplomatic envoys. These weren't just offers of military support, they were comprehensive proposals for technological exchange, cultural understanding, and mutual development. As the human vengeance fleet continued its strategic operations, something extraordinary was happening. They weren't just fighting a war, they were rewriting the fundamental rules of interstellar engagement. The galaxy watched, a collective breath held in anticipation. Something fundamental was changing, and nothing would ever be the same again. The bridge of the flagship Horizon was a symphony of controlled intensity. Admiral Elena Rodriguez moved between holographic displays with a grace that belied the complexity of the strategic operation unfolding around her. Each movement, each decision was the culmination of generations of human preparation and strategic thinking. Her team was unlike any military command in galactic history. Neural interfaces connected each crew member in a way that transcended traditional communication. They weren't just a team. They were a living, breathing strategic organism. Thoughts and tactical assessments flowed between them with a speed and precision that would have seemed impossible to any outside observer. The current operation targeted the primary Arcturian military production center in the Sigma Quadrant. But this was far more than a simple military strike. Every aspect of the engagement had been carefully designed to send a message that would resonate throughout the galaxy. "Quantum displacement sequence initiating," announced Captain Marcus Chen, his voice calm and measured. The ship began to shift, existing simultaneously in multiple potential locations, a technological marvel that completely disrupted traditional targeting systems. What made the human approach truly revolutionary was its comprehensive nature. This wasn't just about military victory. It was about systematic dismantling of an oppressive system, while simultaneously creating a path for reconstruction and future cooperation. Dr. Sarah Nakamura, the mission's chief strategic analyst, monitored multiple layers of the operation simultaneously. Her enhanced cognitive abilities allowed her to process complex tactical scenarios with a speed and depth that bordered on the miraculous. "Initial breach points are stabilizing," she reported. "Adaptive reconstruction protocols are online." The Arcturian Production Center was a marvel of industrial engineering, a massive complex that had been the backbone of their military expansion for generations. Conventional military thinking would have called for total destruction. The human approach was far more nuanced. As the Horizon and its accompanying fleet began their approach, they weren't just preparing to attack. They were preparing to systematically neutralize the facility's military capabilities while preserving its potential for future peaceful use. Energy weapons that could have reduced the entire complex to atomic dust instead surgically disabled critical military systems. Adaptive nanotechnological systems began to neutralize hazardous materials, converting destructive infrastructure into potential reconstruction resources. "We are not here to destroy." Admiral Rodriguez's voice echoed through the ship's communication systems. "We are here to create a new possibility." The assault was a masterclass in strategic precision. Defensive systems that had been considered impenetrable found themselves systematically dismantled. Communication networks collapsed. Military command structures were neutralized with surgical precision. But beneath the military operation, something far more profound was happening. Teams of xenoengineers and diplomatic specialists were already preparing reconstruction plans. Where other civilizations might have seen a military target, the humans saw an opportunity for transformation. Advanced medical teams stood ready to provide support to Arcturian personnel. Reconstruction algorithms were already mapping out potential peaceful uses for the existing infrastructure. Captain Chen's voice cut through the tactical displays. Primary military systems neutralized. Reconstruction protocols initiating. The complexity of the operation was breathtaking. It wasn't just about winning a battle. It was about fundamentally reshaping the potential for future interaction. Every system disabled, every defensive network compromised was done with a level of precision that suggested decades of preparation. Dr. Nakamura's analysis continued to flow through the neural network. Probability matrices indicate a 94.7% chance of minimizing civilian casualties. Reconstruction potential at 82.3%. As the operation concluded, the Horizon began its systematic documentation. Every piece of technology captured, every system neutralized was being carefully studied. This wasn't just a military engagement, it was a comprehensive intelligence-gathering operation that would reshape human understanding of advanced technologies. Admiral Rodriguez watched the holographic displays with a calm that masked the profound significance of what was unfolding. This was more than a battle. This was a statement about humanity's potential, a declaration that they were no longer a species to be overlooked or controlled. The Sigma Quadrant Production Center, once a symbol of Arcturian military might, was now a testament to a different approach to conflict and resolution. The galaxy watched and waited. The liberation of occupied territories became the true testament to humanity's extraordinary approach to conflict. As the Vengeance Fleet pushed deeper into Arcturian-controlled space, they brought with them something far more powerful than weapons, a comprehensive strategy of reconstruction and hope. Dr. Elena Rodriguez stood on the observation deck of the flagship Horizon, watching as advanced medical and reconstruction teams prepared to land on a planet that had been under Arcturian occupation for generations. This was not a military operation in the traditional sense. This was a complex humanitarian mission that would reshape entire civilizations. The planet below was a tapestry of destruction. Decades of Arcturian control had stripped away not just resources, but hope itself. Entire populations had been reduced to little more than economic resources, their cultural identities systematically suppressed. Preliminary scans complete, announced Captain Marcus Chen. Population count, 2.3 million. Genetic diversity indicates multiple subjugated species. What made the human approach unique was its fundamental understanding that liberation was more than just removing an oppressive force. It was about restoration, about providing opportunities for genuine self-determination. Advanced medical ships began their descent. These were not conventional medical vessels, but mobile reconstruction platforms that could simultaneously provide medical treatment, educational resources, and infrastructure restoration. Nanotechnological healing systems could address generations of medical neglect in a matter of hours. Quantum communication networks would be established, giving populations access to information that had been denied to them for decades. Dr. Sarah Nakamura coordinated the initial landing operations. Her enhanced cognitive interfaces allowed her to process multiple layers of complex social and technological challenges simultaneously, prioritizing critical infrastructure restoration. She reported, medical treatment, communication networks, and educational resource deployment are our primary objectives. The first waves of human teams were a diverse group, not just military personnel, but specialists in education, medical treatment, cultural preservation, and technological reconstruction. Each team member was equipped with not just advanced technological tools, but a deep understanding of the complex social dynamics they would encounter. Genetic analysis teams began working immediately. The Arcturian occupation had not just been a political oppression. It had been a systematic attempt to suppress the genetic and cultural diversity of multiple species. Human technology could now begin to reverse those profound damages. We are not here to replace their systems. Admiral Rodriguez's mission statement echoed through the reconstruction team's communication networks. We are here to provide the tools for self-determination. On the planet's surface, the first medical reconstruction teams began their work. Nanotechnological healing systems addressed generations of medical neglect. Quantum educational interfaces provided access to centuries of accumulated knowledge. Communication networks came online, connecting populations that had been deliberately isolated. The complexity of the operation was breathtaking. It wasn't just about providing immediate relief. It was about creating sustainable systems of self-governance and technological development. Cultural preservation teams worked alongside medical and technological specialists. Advanced linguistic algorithms helped restore and document languages that had been systematically suppressed. Historical archives were reconstructed, allowing populations to reconnect with their own histories. Captain Chen's tactical analysis continued to flow through the ship's neural networks. Resistance infrastructure neutralized. 0 civilian casualties. Reconstruction potential, 93.4%. What the Arcturian hegemony had seen as mere resources were now being given the opportunity to determine their own futures. Each liberated territory became a testament to a fundamentally different approach to interstellar engagement. The medical ships were marvels of technological and humanitarian engineering. They could establish complete medical treatment centers in hours, addressing not just immediate health concerns, but providing long-term genetic and medical support. As the first day of liberation concluded, something extraordinary was happening. Populations that had known only suppression were beginning to understand the possibilities of genuine self-determination. Admiral Rodriguez watched the initial reports come in. This was more than a military campaign. This was a comprehensive strategy of liberation that challenged every existing model of interstellar conflict. The galaxy watched, understanding that something fundamental was changing. Humanity was rewriting the rules of engagement, not through overwhelming force, but through a profound commitment to possibility. The Galactic Reconstruction Summit convened in a massive orbital station that had once been the pride of the Arcturian hegemony. Now, it served as a symbol of a new era of interstellar cooperation. Admiral Elena Rodriguez stood at the central podium, her presence both a testament to human resilience and a promise of something entirely new. Around her, representatives from dozens of species sat, some in wonder, some in lingering trepidation, all fundamentally changed by humanity's unprecedented intervention. "We are not conquerors," she began, her voice carrying through universal translation systems. "We are partners in a broader vision of galactic potential." The summit was more than a diplomatic gathering. It was a fundamental reimagining of interstellar relations. Decades of Arcturian oppression had created a complex web of subjugated populations, broken economic systems, and suppressed technological potential. Humanity's approach was not about punishment, but about comprehensive restoration. Dr. Sarah Nakamura presented the initial reconstruction reports. Holographic displays showed the extraordinary transformation of previously occupied territories. Where there had been suppression, now there were flourishing centers of education, technological development, and cultural renaissance. Our analysis shows a 78.6% improvement in quality of life across liberated territories, she reported. Technological access has increased by 92%. Educational opportunities have expanded exponentially. Captain Marcus Chen outlined the strategic considerations. The human fleet had not simply defeated the Arcturian hegemony, they had systematically dismantled a system of oppression while creating pathways for genuine self-determination. The most remarkable aspect of humanity's intervention was its fundamental approach. Unlike previous galactic powers that had sought to dominate or exploit, humans offered something revolutionary: genuine partnership. Advanced technological transfer programs were already in development. Quantum communication networks would connect species that had been deliberately isolated for generations. Medical technologies that could address genetic suppression were being shared freely. Educational platforms would provide unprecedented access to accumulated knowledge. Representatives from previously subjugated species spoke, their voices filled with a mixture of hope and cautious optimism. Species that had known only oppression were now being offered a chance to determine their own futures. The Croxian delegation, once known for their aggressive expansionism, now sat in careful consideration. Their lead representative, Ambassador Zarakol, spoke with surprising humility. "We did not understand," she admitted. "Humanity has shown us a different path." Behind the diplomatic proceedings, an even more profound transformation was taking place. Human research teams were working alongside scientists from multiple species, addressing challenges that had seemed insurmountable. Technological barriers were being broken down. Cultural exchanges were happening at unprecedented levels. Dr. Nakamura's team had developed collaborative research platforms that allowed simultaneous contribution from multiple species. Quantum computing systems could now process complex problems that would have taken previous civilizations centuries to address. Admiral Rodriguez understood the true challenge. This was not about a single military victory. This was about creating a sustainable model of interstellar cooperation that could prevent future conflicts. "Our goal," she told the assembled representatives, "is not to replace existing power structures. Our goal is to create a framework of mutual understanding and shared potential." The reconstruction efforts were comprehensive. Economic systems were being redesigned to prevent future exploitation. Educational platforms were being developed that could provide access to knowledge across species boundaries. Medical technologies that could address generations of genetic suppression were being shared freely. Captain Chen's strategic analysis continued to provide insights. The human approach was not about military dominance, but about creating sustainable systems of cooperation. As the summit progressed, something extraordinary became clear. Humanity had not just defeated the Arcturian hegemony. They had presented an entirely new model of interstellar engagement, one based on mutual respect, technological sharing, and genuine partnership. The final resolution was unprecedented. A new galactic council would be formed, with representation from all species. Decision-making would be collaborative. Resources would be shared. Technological development would be a collective endeavor. Admiral Rodriguez's closing statement captured the essence of this new vision. We are not defined by our capacity to destroy, but by our ability to create possibilities. The galaxy watched, understanding that everything had changed. Humanity had arrived, and nothing would ever be the same again.